Hello and welcome. This is Communicating with a Narcissist. If you are a co parenting with a narcissist, hi and welcome. This is Communicating with a Narcissist. Stop the co parenting battles in their tracks, create peace for yourself and your child. Hi, I'm author and strategy coach Grace Rolton. I'm the author of Co Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self Rules to Stay Sane. It's my survivor story. I have several other books on this topic. If you're in a high conflict family court battle, I'm glad you're here. Please learn all that you can. So, I have several books. I am a coach for moms, but I'm a transformation coach for women who love an alcoholic and are trying to break free of codependency. And then I transitioned into coaching moms who are stuck in high conflict family court battles with narcissists and sociopaths. You can check me out on my website, read about me and my story. I survived an 11-year family court battle, 3 lawyers, 6 DCF CPS investigations, 3 GAL bad reports against me. We've had several judges and over 100 appearances. So you can imagine that I have gone through the nightmare of trying to co parent with a narcissistic ex and surviving all of the co parenting abuse and financial legal abuse, which is post separation abuse. I'll get into more about that later. So, my mission is to help mothers win, protective mothers win, so children don't lose. They don't lose the healthy parent because the healthy parent is too stressed out, and they don't lose in family court battles because the protective mother, is making mistakes. And yes, this does apply to protective fathers dealing with narcissistic women and exes. You're welcome to translate this if you're a man watching this, but my niche audience, my strategic people that I can help are moms like myself who are protective mothers dealing with an alcoholic ex, narcissistic ex, sociopathic ex, and I speak from my experience. So my books are all written as my story, survivor stories, and these are my tips. So if you want to de-escalate the conflict, improve conditions for yourself and your children, please listen up. There's lots of things I'm going to tell you that you may not have heard from other authors and speakers, and it might be just unique to me. But I do want to give you a disclaimer. I am not a therapist. I'm not a licensed professional. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a legal expert. I cannot give you legal advice. So you must run everything you hear through your attorney to see if this will apply for you in your situation. Also, I encourage you to work with me or a high conflict divorce coach or a custody battle coach, because you don't want to take a tip and use it and it harm you. You want to make sure that you know when, how, and where to apply the tips that I'm giving you. And that takes the gift of discernment. And you might not have that while you're in it. You may need to work with someone like a mentor to make sure that you're using good strategies and not just taking one thing and running with it. And try to speak directly from my story of this is what I did, this happens to me. Your story might be totally different. Some of this might apply to you, all of this might apply to you, none of this might apply to you. Each custody case is different. And when you're creating peace, really, you're creating peace for yourself, with yourself. And it is very hard, actually impossible, to get peace from a person that's in their own inner turmoil and conflict. So when we create peace, it usually begins with us, and it has to begin with us because they don't have it to give. And when we do it for ourselves and our children, and it does benefit the whole situation. Like if one person gets better, the whole situation typically benefits from one person getting better with any kind of toxic dynamic. So, my story, I told you, is long and lengthy. It wasn't a sprint in family court, it was a marathon. Some call it an ultra marathon. Some say you are co-parenting with your own personal terrorist. And I realized I was co-parenting with a bully, and I was going to get bullied anytime I stood up to him. So I had to learn a different way. And I needed the peace to survive and thrive, because in a war, I was merely surviving. But when I got onto the other side of the war into peace, I began thriving. And I want that for you and your children. So if you want to de escalate the conflict and learn a different way, stay with me. I hope this will be really helpful. Even if you pick up one or two things, this time will be well spent learning from a survivor. So, welcome to a new way. So, if you want to step out of the drama, the trauma, and the chaos, which will just lead to confusion, hurt, and anger, you have to learn a new way. You've got to be done with the drama and the trauma and the chaos. You got to be really done with it. And you've got to want peace, not war. Now, that doesn't apply in all situations. Like I said, um, the disclaimer is that you can't use my tips and tools and survivor wisdom and apply everything to your situation. There's so many different things. So it's good to run it through your coach, your therapist, before you do something and implement something. Run it through your attorney. Make sure that you're building your own strategy that applies to your situation and is smart. So, there are some times when peace is only found on the other side of war. I will say that. And a lot of my peace came after a final judge's ruling and having to stand up in a 5 day long custody trial that spanned 2 years, 3.5 years in total. So sometimes it is important to be standing up for your rights and saying no to people who want more and are never happy and agreements don't work. Sometimes you do have to survive the trial. And the war is a family custody war with paper bullets. It's a family court battle, it's a custody battle. It's like you are walking on eggshells. You feel the attack when you open the mail and it's subpoenas or summons. It does feel like a war zone. And if you want that to stop, I can give you some tips on how to turn this around. But just know that if the family court litigation has to play itself out for you to get to peace, that's good. You can still be learning this and be ready to implement this in your custody case if it will help you and your children. And of course, if it's part of your overall strategy and your lawyer is your ally. So make sure that your strategy with your lawyer and everything that you're doing is part of what your strategy is as a custody case. So you don't want to use any of this to hurt your custody case. So please take what you like and leave the rest. So if you're tired of the overwhelm and the attacks, now, if you want to stop the attacks, please listen to this new way. If you want to lessen your stress, save legal fees, create a better environment for you and your children, if you want to move on and have a life, then these tips will be so helpful for you in creating that. And just know that sometimes you have to plant these seeds and wait for them to grow and water them. So it might not be an instant shift, although I did get some instant shifts with the narcissist when I stepped into the solutions and out of the problem. I also stopped being a problem to him, and that was really helpful to de-escalate things and stop being, what I say is, you don't want to back a porcupine up into the corner. Why would you do that? And because people do it and they get stuck and they get the sharp barbs. And but their part of the problem is that they went after them. And I can explain how we go after them with the things that we say, the things that we write, the things that we text. And a fearful person is that porcupine you're backing up, and you don't want to back a fearful person up unless it's part of your lawyer's overall strategy to win and it's your children's safety and sanity on the line. So, like I said, some of these things will apply. So if it's speaking to you, great, keep listening. So my mission is to help moms create peace. And when you have peace, it is a win. And if you don't have peace, you're not winning. And you'll know that because you're so stressed and you're so taxed and you're so tired. And without that peace, a lot of mothers who are in this for the long haul end up with autoimmune conditions and flares physically because I believe it sets off an internal reaction and there's rage, and we're powerless. So we end up just being totally inflamed by the situation. And family court is not always a straight line. It's a zigzag path. It's not reasonable. It doesn't always make any sense. It can be biased. It can be corrupt. So family court can be a whole bunch of triggers. And I have some tips on communicating with the narcissist that I believe will help create a better situation. And, sometimes these tips, if you apply them without um, a message to the narcissist that, hey, I want this situation to be better for me and my children. So let's start working together and put the past behind us. Without that, sometimes if you start doing this, they'll be suspicious of it. They won't trust it if you start using my tips. So I encourage mothers to sometimes write, just let's start getting along from here on out. Let's make a new chapter because our children are worth it and we can all move on with our lives. And sometimes giving the message to the narcissist or the sociopath to move on with their lives and that you're going to do it so they can do it helps that with these tips, implementing them for them to actually work. And I've given you my disclaimer that I am not a therapist. These aren't proven methods. These are just survivor strategies and survivor wisdom. And you're going to have to see if they work. I can't be liable for any damages or harm as a result of using this, because it really needs to be used in conjunction with a lawyer's strategy, a legal strategy, or a high conflict divorce coach strategy. It can't be just taken one and then run with it. And I've seen mothers do that when I've given them consultations, take one thing, run with it, and really cause more harm than good. So it's important that you be learning and have support of somebody who is knowledgeable about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, custody battles, that you just don't take one tip, run with it, and think it's going to fix your whole entire problem. Always consult your attorney, and like I said, take what you like and leave the rest. So one of the best things you can do, and you probably are already doing it, is to use a parenting app for communication. So text messages and phone calls I had to put an end to because there was no way to document crazy. So you can't fix crazy, but you can document it. And it was getting really too hard to document text messages. So be sure that you are documenting what is happening. It's really super important that you're documenting. And if you don't know how to document, please learn how to document. Please start documenting because you will need, the judge wants dates, times, exact things. So the way a narcissist typically wins, and you'll read this in my books if you pick them up, is they destabilize the target. And they throw so much at you that it's literally chaos. You can't see straight and you can't get anything straight. And you don't remember what dates, what happened when your children were abused. You're obviously an emotional reaction. So these parenting apps like Family Wizard are usually required by the courts and judge. So if you don't have a court order and you're getting one, please ask your attorney to write that in as a request. These family court messages are usually admissible in court. They're trackable. You can type in a search to find anything about a particular topic in all of the messages. They're easy to refer to. Like if you said you invited him to something and he said he was never invited, you can go easily get the Family Wizard message and see the date that he opened and read it. So it's very helpful. Now these can be monitored. Your conversations and correspondence can be monitored by a third party, parenting a coordinator, a GAL. That's helpful when someone with bad behavior knows that they're being monitored. They tend to be careful with what they say and do. Not all of them. And if he goes off on Family Wizard and you just have evidence to show a judge that he's bitter, hostile, angry, and abusive. But typically they will keep themselves a little bit in check because it's an image management technique that they use to get by. So you want to make this parenting app your best friend, and you have to learn it inside and out, learn how to put things on the calendar, learn how to do private journal entries, learn all the features, make this something that you use daily, and that you, because there is a sign in history, a login history. Like if you're ordered to do it every day and the person's doing it once a month or once a year, you can print off that login history and have it admissible in court and hold your ex in contempt of not following the court order and refusing to co-parent with you. So you can see how valuable this can be in some situations. So use it even if they won't. So I get a lot of mothers who complain they won't do it. I don't care. That's good for you. That's good for your case to show that they're not coming, but you still do it and you still log in. And I've even had mothers start using Family Wizard, even if before it's court ordered, which is super helpful because then you can show a judge that you've invited him, you've signed up, you've paid for the year, you're willing, wanting, and able to co-parent with him on a court approved tool. And it shows the judge that you're someone who is willing to follow rules, court orders, make this easy and seamless. And it really just shows that you are motivated as a person that wants to co-parent in the easiest, most successful way possible. So that's my survivor tip. Don't complain that they don't do it. And what I did was I just filed a motion of contempt when he wouldn't use it. And I had a long enough history of him not using it. Now, you've got to be careful when filing contempts. You've got to make sure that your lawyer has decided that now is the time because you don't want to get into a situation of filing a contempt, which angers the judge, or if the judge doesn't care about something, and then you lose some child support. So you've got to be strategic in your contempt filing. It can't come from anger. It's got to be a strategy and a good reason or a couple of reasons where if the judge doesn't usually, it's really up to the judge. So if he doesn't really care, or it's a slap on the wrist to just log into Family Wizard and nothing will happen over the contempt, then you might want to pair it up with another contempt. Like if he's not paying child support and he's not using Family Wizard, that, put them together and then file them together. That's a strategy that a lawyer will use. So it's up to your lawyer of when and how to file a contempt. I've gone 6 months, years without him using it before I filed contempt, which I had a good long history. Don't tip him off to say, hey, you're not using this, you should be using this in another way, so that he logs in the day before trial where he can show he's logged in. And that's what I did with my ex. It was a big mistake. And mothers make so many mistakes. They don't even know. We don't even know we're making mistakes. You don't want to tip off the person who's deemed you as an enemy to destroy on what you have against them. You really want to hold all your cards really close to your chest and your lawyer's chest and only use them as a strategy in your legal battle. So how do we create peace? Well, I told you it begins with us. It's going to begin with you. It's not something, peace isn't something a conflicted person can give you. So it's up to you to create it. And how do you do that? You become respectful. You mature. You sound like an adult. You become friendly, civil. You're even kind. Yes, even being nice to the narcissist. Everything you write, you want it to be something that a judge would view as good. Like, what if a judge reads this? Does this sound like I've gone off topic? Is it respectful, friendly, kind? Besides my books, there is a book called Biff, and it's through Bill Eddy. It's brief, informative, friendly, and firm, and he teaches you how to talk to high conflict people. I put that as a resource in the back of my books. I used the experts in dealing with toxic people on how to deal with all the blaming and all of the attacks and communicate in a way that de-escalates all the heightened anger, conflict, and ego trips. So there are ways that you can create peace, and I'm happy to share these with you. So it's important that you stick to the child. You don't go off topic about past relationships or cheating. You basically eliminate the drama. And I'll talk more about the method that I use. And it's important that you really stick to talking about your child and things that relate to the child. Even if he goes off on the topic, it's good for you to stay on topic And if you have to like deny false allegations, really, I'm in receipt of your email. I deny all these allegations. Um, that's what you say. One blanket line. I deny all these allegations. Yes, I will pick the child up at 4 o'clock. Um, because getting into it, defending each and everything is very much a waste of energy, and you're letting him know what evidence you have to defend yourself. So you can keep a log, which I did, of all the accusations and the evidence and proof I have to back it up should my attorney need to. So oftentimes the attorney won't even go into the minutia or the small things. The attorney will just stick to like what's the custody arrangement, time, legal rights, physical rights, and all of this other stuff was just wasted energy trying to prove you're a good person after them criticizing you or accusing you of being a bad person or whatever. So I just deny all your allegations. Um, and that's it. You denied all of them, all in one sentence. So, examples of things that you would want to say to stop all the arguing are just, okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. These are simple. These do not tell them that you're a worthy opponent. This doesn't tell them you're going to stand up to them in the future. Now and in the future, it doesn't raise any fear flags for them. We could say so many things to really get their spine, the hair on their spine standing up. And that would just make a fearful person more fearful and paranoid and think that they do have to fight you. And then you'll get a lot of attacks. And these can be very subtle. I talk about co parenting abuse and all the different types of co-parenting abuse tactics, and I have everything on that list I have been through because I didn't use these 3 sentences. I no longer get abused anymore because I get these 3 sentences. I give these 3. He no longer attacks me anymore because this is really all I say. And so these stop the transfer of energy, negative energy, angry energy. And I'm going to talk about the super ball and the curtain. So if you know those super bouncy balls, you can hit them off a hard surface and they just bounce even harder and farther and higher. That's a super ball, and that can be a conversation. And if you know what it's like to throw a super ball against the cement floor or any hard surface, you know that it gets out of control really fast. But if you throw it against a curtain, the ball just drops. So be the curtain. And how do you do that? Well, all the emotional triggers and energy, you need to talk with someone, a therapist, a free domestic violence counselor, to just process those emotions with someone and get them out. Like I would talk to a DV counselor for free by phone for an hour and then go for a walk to walk out the energy of the stress of being attacked or accused of something new. So take care of yourself. Give these things, if you've got to deny an accusation, deny all your accusations. And I would like to stick to co-parenting our child and make this a more peaceful situation for all of us. You can make your own statement. At one time I was being attacked so heavily that I made a statement about working together and I just copied and pasted it. Now that made him angry too. So find something if you need to, and I use that as a shield, that statement of I would like to work together, and I would copy and paste it and everything because I knew he was trying to find evidence to show a judge because I had already shown the judge his type of family wizard messaging. So he was trying to get me to say something that he could say, here she is, she is so crazy, look at what she says. And I wasn't going to give him that evidence. So don't give them evidence to use against you to show that you're off topic and hostile and paragraphs long of explanations. They love that, they eat that up. And when a judge reads it, it's you see one person just talking and talking and talking and explaining and the other person saying like 2 sentences, and it does make it look like the person who's spending hours writing up paragraphs is the high conflict party because they have so much to say. So that's why it's really important to keep it short, simple, sweet. And if it's a different topic that you need to discuss, just start a new message. Don't That's one of my things that I did with myself. I don't go into long back and forths. If I had something new to say, start a new message. That was really helpful for sorting out topics when I needed to get the dates of times of when I already told him something and he said he was never informed. So you have to have these boundaries with yourself and set these principles for yourself. And if you read my first book, second book, third book, you'll see that I started strategizing my communication methods, what I was going to say, what I wasn't going to say, how I was going to run the family wizard, where I was going to document using the private journal, and how I was going to organize neglect or child abuse or lies. And remember, you want to keep this to yourself. You don't really tell them that you're documenting them. If they are going on Family Wizard, I mean, I even tried that. I let him know I've documented his response to try to get him to stop being so abusive, and it really didn't work. I just learned these three things. Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me know. And guess what? I started getting, okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me know back. And boy, was that easier to open up that app and read a response. Very great. And, if they stop using the Family Wizard and they try to get you into the text, you can say, please check OFW, our Family Wizard. And they can go log in and get responses. But if you're strategizing to show a judge that he won't use the court order, maybe you don't do that and send him to go get himself out of contempt. So again, strategize with your lawyer, find out what you should be doing in your unique case. So when you're creating peace with a narcissist, the goal should be to stop the anger. So an angry person usually needs a target, and you don't want to be the TOB, the target of blame. And you can go read Bill Eddy's The 5 Types of People Who Can Ruin Your Life. So if you've been deemed the target of blame, you will be under attack. But the goal should be to stop being the target of blame so that you can just be the best parent that you want to be and have a more peaceful co-parenting situation. So a lot of people say that you can't co-parent with a narcissist, you have to parallel parent instead, and I did parallel parenting instead, and I for the most part still do parallel parenting, but I do have peace with a narcissistic co-parent. And it's because I use this strategy of being the curtain, and I stopped the hostility, I stopped the arguments, I stopped being the opposition, which gave me peace. And now there's some times when you need the evidence of how awful and angry they are towards you. And so if they were to lash out on you on Family Wizard, those are the things that you save to show a judge. Um, Now, sometimes a lawyer might tell you to say something, inform them of something. So you have to listen to your lawyer about what things that you post on Family Wizard, what things you should be doing so that you preserve your custody case. What is that parenting tool used for? Co-parenting. Check with your lawyer and say, what 3 topics should be on here? And then everything else shouldn't be on there. Like child's activities, child's school, child's medical, and then everything else with my job, all of that, your health, my health, your disability, my disability, you don't work, that's all should be not on the Family Wizard. And if that stuff is creeping into your parenting app, then you know you've gone off topic, and that could be detrimental in your case. So you want to preserve your custody case. A lot of lawyers say to invite them to things, even if you know they're abusive, even if you know they won't show up. It does show that you're trying, and that you can give evidence so that you're not accused of PA, parental alienation, that you can show that you are inviting them. And that is a strategy. Like, you can sign up for Family Wizard, tell them to sign up too, give them the login, the website address. let them know that they can just pay, sign up, and you have a place and start using it. And if they don't use it 5 years and then try to take you into court for parental alienation, you've got 5 years worth of inviting him to all of the child's activities and advising him of medical stuff, maybe once a week, every Sunday if the person's not using it at all, twice a week if they're using it monthly. You have to decide with your lawyer what's reasonable, and everybody has a different version of reasonable. Like, our judge ended up for daily, because my ex missed a message that was urgent. But some are Wednesday and Sunday, and some parents just do a monthly update if they know the father's totally checked out. So that reasonableness has to be figured out with your lawyer, about your judge, what they typically rule, what they typically order. And my last point here is, do you stand up to a bully? How, when, where, and with whom? So I learned that standing up to the narcissist just caused me to be more abused. So I was originally sending him messages to let him know that he can't fool me, that he can't gaslight me, he can't lie, he can't get away with stuff. And I would catch him and call him out. That just made him crazier and come back with more attacks. Especially if he lost the argument, he would attack me with something else. So I learned not to stand up to the bully, let my lawyer do the standing up in front of a judge. And I just didn't stand up to him anymore, which lost my energy and let him know that I had some dirt on him, which he then found ways to dismiss or invalidate, or he would change tactics. So it wasn't smart for me to let the other person know the cards that I was playing, which was all truth. Hey, I got a whole bunch of truth on you. And they'd be like, well, then I'm going to go lie about my lie. And then it got so that nobody could see straight because I was standing up to him, and it was getting crazier and more complicated. And when it becomes crazier and complicated, it can either go in your favor with a court or be against you in a court. So you've got to be mindful that it might be better for you to have a simpler case to show a judge, but sometimes it's better to have a complicated case. And again, you need the gift of discernment to know with your attorney working in partnership. But what I'm here to talk about is you working in partnership with yourself, setting principles in place that you're not going to defend, you're not going to stand up to a bully, you're not going to reveal your cards, you're not going to let him know you're documenting him. You're going to be setting principles with yourself, in case you need them. And not everything that you document will be needed. It depends on which way the wind is blowing, like which way the attack is coming from depends on what weapons and resources that you will need. And this is unfortunately a battle and a war, but if you use these methods, you can turn it to come out of the war zone. And your child is in the middle of this. So the goal should be to stop all of this and create peace. And these become your personal goals: getting peace to thrive, having free time to enjoy, having less legal bills, having less stress of court, less stressful communication. And you need to remember these whys when they say, you cheated on me with my best friend, or you're whatever. Remember why you're not going to get into it with them, because you want to have peace. You don't want to waste your time explaining that you're a good person to someone who has no empathy. You're not going to waste your time telling a person you're sick or that you have therapy. Like, all of that can be used against you in court. So that's why they say less is more, because any words that you say in a sincere way could be, saying, I'm going to a therapist because of you. They can just tell the judge you're crazy, and then you end up getting a psych eval. So I've undergone 2 psych evals. So I can tell you to just show your strength, not your weaknesses, to a narcissist in these messages. Don't expect empathy from a person who doesn't have empathy, and do anticipate that anything you give them in terms of a weakness, they will exaggerate and try to use against you. So it's better to just show strength, have a good, solid attorney that is a family court expert. If you don't have that attorney, it might be time to get a new attorney, but I'll talk about that later. So you have to use strategy and logistics. And the first one is how to keep your kids safe, and how to afford a longer court battle. If you've got a toxic, disordered person, you might have more than one trial. You might have many different agreements. They're typically not happy with one agreement, they go for more. You've got to strategize how to save money, where to get the right support, and what to document. So you have to know when to fight and when not to fight. And sometimes you have to fight for fairness and justice, meaning not fight the narcissist directly, not stand up, not request, not demand, just have your lawyer do that for you. You stay out of the stress of fight or flight mode, and that's what your lawyer is there to do. And you focus on creating peace for yourself and your children. And yes, you might need to compromise. You might have to take an unfair deal here and there. You might have to appease the angry monster. You might have to give a little bit of calculated supply, but make sure you're doing that with a narcissistic abuse expert, that you're not grabbing one tool, running with it without running it by your therapist, your lawyer, and anyone else that's in your corner. And you do need a team of 10. That, there should be a bunch of people helping you stay standing through any assault or dealing with a toxic person, people that you can trust, people that are safe, and people that know narcissism, not just a regular therapist. I got stuck with a regular therapist who for 5 years looked and picked me apart and never once said, hey, maybe your ex has a disorder, a personality disorder, because you cannot get order from a disordered person. It's impossible. So just know that that's the common sense right there. And, each case, I'm just going to say this again, is different and will need tailored strategies and plans. Now, if you need support, I do have free groups, so you can join us on Facebook. It's Co-Parenting with a Narcissist Support Group for Moms. That's a closed, private Facebook group. I ask you to post anonymously, even though it's closed and private, because narcissists infiltrate systems and look for evidence in social media. So social media was used against me. And if you know me as an author, I write and speak in a pen name. We also do a Zoom support group once a month for free for moms who have to co-parent with narcissists. Next year, this will be a paid group, so it might be $5 or $10 to join. So take advantage of this free Zoom support group and the book club I have if you're getting this the year that it's free. And watch out for bad advice. You know, you might be on there and everybody has a different opinion, and you will have to formulate your own opinion based on your own circumstances. And using someone else's advice in your situation can be harmful. So, just listen to the different opinions, take them into consideration. It might have worked for them, it might not work for you. So, watch out for bad advice. And don't try to handle this alone. It's my number one survivor tip. I couldn't do this alone in silence. I mean, a lot of women end up with agoraphobia. They're just afraid to go out because they're being attacked, and it's subtle, and a sociopath has silenced them. They're afraid. There's flying monkeys, there's minions, and they get really afraid of everyone. We have to find safe, healthy people, which could be a local DV counselor, someone in a different town by phone, a DV counselor. You don't give your last name. Know that therapist records can be subpoenaed, so maybe you don't do therapy in the traditional way. You pay for a life coach instead. So there's all kinds of ways to protect yourself and your custody case, but you don't have to do this alone. Please reach out for support, me, other people, but really look for narcissist abuse experts, because you won't have to explain or think you've got to convince us of the tactics and what's happening to you. That's so subtle, it's hard to articulate. You can book a strategy call with me, a support call with me. I give you my tips, tools, and strategies and survivor wisdom. I'm happy to do an initial call and ongoing calls as needed. So just know that I'm an author, I'm a mother, I'm a thriver, and but I'm not a therapist or a DV counselor. So what do I do in my sessions? Well, I hear your story, and I typically validate the hell you've experienced. I help you get it clear on the narcissist tactic used and tactics And then I help you craft some counter strategies if needed. It's important that you have a healing plan in place. So I give you resources to go do that healing with the experts. And we sometimes develop a survival and sanity strategy. So we create the much needed self care plan, which might include daily walks to reduce stress. It might mean learning to use the time without your kids as a time to regroup and recharge and revitalize. I do help you brainstorm ideas for your situation and for your child. And I do assist in the development of getting a solid support structure. So we'll have a like a little to-do list of call this person, call over here, find those people that you can call immediately to get the emotional support so that you never run to the narcissist with your emotions. That can be self annihilation. And you want to practice self preservation at all times. So we establish a winning mindset and we make those motivating to do lists. And as a life coach, I'm there to ask you questions like, what's in your way? And usually it's fear. And fear can be very legitimate, and some fear can be illegitimate. But if you're in the fight, flight, freeze, feign, fake mode, it's not just fight or flight. It's not just fight and leave. It could be feign, meaning you play dead, or freeze. You are paralyzed. You don't feel like you can do anything. So in sessions, I help identify where you're in because self-awareness is key to creating any change and helping yourself. And I'm all about self-help. I work with mothers who help themselves and women who help themselves because it is about self-help. We can help you all you need, but you really have to be helping yourself. And it's important for you to have hope and not despair. I've seen the toughest cases turn around, and I'm one of those cases. Most cases, I think 98% of them will mediate. Not all of them go to a trial. I'm one of those 1% that goes to a horrible custody battle trial. And so if you're one of those cases, I do believe a lot of these can be turned around. And the last chapter in my book, the first book, Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, is about staging a comeback. In sessions, we outline the tasks that need to be done and try to simplify. So mothers don't have a documentation system to document. So I told you, narcissists win by destabilizing the target. And we win by showing a pattern of bad behavior or abuse or contempt of court. And that has to be date, time, what? Date, time, what? And easy for it to be copied and pasted to a lawyer to read off to a judge with evidence. So you want you to encourage your focus to be more on the happiness of you and your children. So many mothers make this mistake and focus on what the narcissist isn't doing as a dad. And that wastes so much energy, makes the children feel bad. But if you focus on what you can do as a mom and all the ways you can make up for an absent parent or a derelict parent or a bad parent, like get a male mentor if he's not a good male figure. And you can get a male mentor that's safe. You know, watch your child obviously around any male mentor. If your child is a vulnerable child, it has to make sure they pass a background check, a safety check, that they're safe to be around children. And I would still monitor any man around a child. But in the sessions, we pinpoint any self-destructive patterns or thinking, and I let you set your own goals. But I'm your accountability partner. So you can say, I followed through. I got the 3 free consultations from lawyers, and I asked all those questions, those 19 questions on your worksheet. I do share my resources with you. I've mentioned a couple of books that have helped enlighten me. I will mention people who help with narcissistic abuse if you're suffering that. And I also let you know the chapters of my books that would be helpful for your situation. Like the first one, I think, chapter in the book is Learn to Coexist. So if you can't eliminate the other parent, then you have to do this radical acceptance and accept things that are just fact and are so that we can't change. So we have to learn to coexist with toxic people, and our children have to learn coping strategies, but this will strengthen them. And if you do this with buffers and boundaries and firewalls, it can be done. And I also help you identify the main goal. Um, and we get you started on the right track immediately. So you're welcome to schedule a call with me. I do have a free PDF. It's Are You Co-Parenting with a Narcissist 7 Tips. It's an instant download based on my first book. And I do want you to learn all that you can from my survivor story. I have an interesting review. A narcissist did get a hold of my book and leave me a bad review. The book tells you it's my story. I do have two other books of triumph right after this book, although I haven't put that in the front part of this book to let people know. I will update that soon. But you're going to hear a story. I don't get into the hard, traumatizing stuff to hear about any child abuse that may or may not have happened. But I tell you the mindset shifts and what it was like going through it. So know that you're not alone. And you can get this instant PDF if you join my Facebook group. I do have a PDF that's super helpful. This is just a part of it. It's helpful in identifying what's being done to you. And I told you it's the co-parenting abuse, the abuse that you can't see. Yes, you can see physical violence, but can you see word salad, scapegoating, gaslighting, isolating you, coercive control? If you go, I'll put a link below for the co-parenting abuse PDF because it's a free download, and then it signs you up to my monthly newsletter and you can print it out. It's got many more tactics. Circling what's being done to you is very helpful. It can help stop being triggered. Because when you're triggered, you're an emotional reaction to defend, fight, flight, freeze, feign, whatever mode. And you can be so emotional that you can't see or think straight. You can't be logical. So if you know this is a pity play, okay, he's got a pity play. Is there a counter to that? Sometimes you just say, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." Sometimes a little bit of empathy first can help them not see you so much as an enemy or a threat. And that's definitely a goal that I keep in mind. So if your strategy with your lawyer is to see you as a worthy opponent, then make sure you're following your legal strategy if you're right in the middle of the battle or going towards a custody trial. So the books are available: Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, 7 Self Rules to Stay Sane, My Survivor Story. There's 7, actually 8. 8 is the stage of comeback. And then there's How to Fight a Narcissist in Family Court and Win, Super Smart Strategies for Success, a Survivor Story. Also available on Amazon. I talk about getting that team of 10, tell you the strategies that I use, the zigzag approach. And then there's a follow-up book, Co-Parenting with a Sociopath, Survival and Sanity Guide. And I get more about creating peace so that you can be safe. You want to always keep safety for yourself and your children in mind as number one. Sanity, number 2. So pick up those books on Amazon and you can start reading my story, my survivor wisdom. Visit me on my website. I also help women who love alcoholics break free of codependency forever. And I will be working on a trauma bond recovery webinar. So I'm glad you were here for this one. But you can co-parent with a narcissist and have peace. I was able to do this after making so many mistakes that led to more wars. I learned how to create peace. If you want to listen to any podcasts, you can join me on the free social audio app Clubhouse. And I have a room, Co-Parenting with a Narcissist, or Narcissist as Co-Parents. You can join my club and you can listen to any of those replays and just learn from my story and my testimony. I also have a Get the Right Lawyer guide. It's a $10 PDF, and it helps you because it explains why the right lawyer is important. It gives you worksheets at the end. You can print off 3 worksheets to get 3 consultations and ask the right questions. There's an option for number 19 for you to ask a question. It directs you to just stick to the point if you want full custody, sole custody, so that your lawyer doesn't get drawn into the emotional drama and trauma, and you don't end up using your lawyer as a therapist and costing a lot of fees. You just stick to what you want. And that can really help you. You can also ask them if it's possible or how do they win. You can ask really important questions. Do they know the judge? Does the judge like them? Have they ever won against your ex's attorney? All those questions are super important. And I say do 3. If you need to, do 4. And then sit with those consultations to decide who you go with. And sometimes money is also a factor. So keep in mind that you got to make that decision, but having it written down to be able to go over what they said, it's like free legal advice, really. It's a free insight into your case. And I've got 3, 4 different opinions from 4 different lawyers. So, and it's true, you walk into like 10 different courtrooms, you'll get 10 different outcomes. That's why the judge is super important and your lawyer is super important in your case. So go ahead and you can buy that free PDF. The link will be below. Get the right lawyer guide. And thank you for listening. So please leave a comment or a testimonial for me in this YouTube. If you're watching it via YouTube, comments are very helpful. Tell me what was the best thing. Like, go ahead, comment right now below. What was the most important thing you heard? What was your biggest takeaway? I talk about being very business-like. It's the business of co-parenting. And even if the narcissist doesn't deserve civility, you deserve peace, and you can create that with how you talk and what you say and do. So, thanks again. Give it a like. And you do have to navigate the narcissist while staying sane. So, thank you for watching. I hope this was informational. I hope it was new information versus giving you some one-liners that will assault the person back and escalate the hostility and anger a fearful, paranoid person. I hope that this helps you create peace, and I hope it gets you to a better place in your co-parenting. And ultimately, I hope this helps your children. So thank you so much for listening to this webinar. I have a lot of resources for mothers. I'm happy to work one-on-one, and I always point you to your lawyer for anything. Please pick up my book, start reading and learning. Knowledge is power. And I will be working with DV agencies to try to raise awareness about co-parenting abuse, post-separation abuse, domestic violence abuse by proxy, and so that they have resources for mothers. And when mothers get there and there's no physical violence, can they still support mothers in high conflict family court battles? Please get my free 7 tips or work with me in a session. And when you're dealing with a narcissist, don't try to go it alone. We all need support, even the best of us. Hope to see you on my private group. And remember what your personal goal is. And remember that being the target of blame can set you up for more of a battle. Remember what the things are that you can say that become the curtain and stop the Super Bowl. Remember how to write in a way that the judge will view you, but not with lengthy paragraphs. And remember that creating peace begins with you. If you don't already use a parenting app, I highly recommend getting a parenting app and asking your lawyer which one the judge in your case, usually advises. And please take what you like and leave the rest. If you're getting overwhelmed, that's the time to get support and start writing things down, get yourself more structured. And just know that you can start a new way. You can start the new way today. And I told you sometimes you have to give that one statement that says, hey, I'm going to start getting along, so that they don't think that they won, that they understand that you're taking a different approach and it doesn't trigger them in another way. And that can be really helpful, but make sure whatever you write, you run it by your DV counselor, your therapist, a coach like me, so that you're not writing things that end up hurting you in family court. It's important to weave the words together in a way that shows your strength, cooperation, ability to co-parent and stay on topic. And I'm happy that you listened to my wisdom. This is survivor wisdom, and I hope you get something out of my books. This was Communicating with a Narcissist. Stop the co-parenting battles in their tracks. Create peace for yourself and your child. Thank you so much for watching.